Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of 60 Formula. Welcome to Sweden. Now, as you can see, I've actually made it to Sweden, but unfortunately, the dogs have not. And I'm gonna explain everything in this video so you don't make the same mistakes I made when sending your dog overseas. Now, don't worry, I'm gonna preface this by saying the dogs are absolutely okay. They're on their way to Sweden. In short, this is what I should have done from the very beginning. And today I'm gonna be talking about the #1 mistake that you can make if you're flying your dogs overseas, and that's not having the correct size crate. The crate is what you use to transport your dogs from one country to another country. So it's very important that you get the crate aspect right, because if you don't, it's likely what happened to us will happen to you. So I know in the last video, we talked about getting stuck in Atlanta, and I'm kind of gonna go over that today. The first time that we took the dogs to the Atlanta airport, we brought them to the Lufthansa gate. They were going to be put onto the plane as excess cargo, which means they're gonna be in the bottom of the plane with luggage, while I'm up at the top of the plane. We're gonna be traveling in the same airplane. Excess luggage is pretty safe. It is air conditioned. The pilot of the plane knows that there's animals down there, so they keep it really nice, and the dogs are, they're really safe. But there's a lot of guidelines and like regulations when it comes to getting your dog in this situation. First of all, your dog has to be able to do a 360 in the crate, and they cannot be longer than the actual crate itself. This is entirely subjective in my opinion, because there are dogs that are short hair dogs that are long hair dogs, and depending on how long your dog's hair is, it makes them appear to be bigger even though they're not. The people making these decisions, like whether or not your dog fits in the crate, are just random people who are not veterinarians. They just work at an airline and they think they know everything about animals. And unfortunately, the woman that we got, who was the supervisor of Lufthansa at Atlanta, she must not have been an animal person, because she was the worst person I've ever dealt with, not only when it came to airlines, but anything. She was rude. She was not understanding. She didn't even offer us a refund. She said, if we choose not to get on the plane without our dogs, it's our fault. Well, where am I supposed to do with my dogs? She didn't care. Lufthansa is a terrible airline when it comes to customer service, in my opinion. I was not happy at all, but I'm getting too ahead of myself. Let's go back to the first time we tried to get the dogs on the plane. This was the same morning from the first video when we hopped in the van. We left at about 8 o'clock in the morning from Jacksonville, and we made it to Atlanta at about 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Our flight was delayed until 4:45. When we got there, they told us that our dogs had to be at the gate by 2:30 in order to get on the plane. So we were late and we had to basically reschedule a new flight. Lufthansa told me to get on the phone at the gate and reschedule this flight, which I did. The person at the gate never left a note that we missed our flight because of the dogs, so it was impossible for us to get a refund for the first flight, so they took our money. Even though I spoke with the customer service representative and they told me I was rescheduled for the next day, I never received a confirmation, and even though I gave them my credit card information, I never had any money pulled out. So I ended up calling them about 6 hours later and being like,
yo, nothing's changed.
And they told me they had no record of me talking to a customer service rep and no record of changing our flight, which is just... So I was forced to book an entire new flight. I had to pay for another flight, and we wouldn't get the dogs out until 5 days later. So at this point, money is just flying out the window. So while we're in Atlanta, we figure, hey, we should go and make the best of our time here because we're stuck. So me and my wife went to the Coca-Cola factory, and we also went to the Atlanta Aquarium, which was an incredible experience. If you've ever been to Atlanta or you're ever stuck there, you have to be there. Check out the Atlanta Aquarium, especially the dolphin show. I'm gonna put clips of it in here so you guys can see. It was an awesome experience, and it helped us get through everything. Continuing from where I left off, the crates are the most important part. They also needed a bowl of water that you could be able to fill from the outside, which is like the mathematics behind that blow my mind. You also had to have a bag of food taped on top of the crate if you have a layover. They told me when I got there the second time that I needed a bag of food, but never told me that prior, and there was never anything written anywhere about having to have an extra bag of food if there's a layover. So there's just dozens of things they don't tell you. They basically actively try their best to prevent you from putting your animal on the plane. So I did everything I could, for lack of better words, bitched and moaned, and they would not do anything for us. So we had to take the dogs back to the hotel for a second time and stay there for an extra day. Now at this point, I figured we have to switch this plan up because it's not working. There's no way we're gonna be able to get this done, especially with Lufthansa actively working against us. I decided to do something drastic. I decided to get on the plane the next day with my wife and fly to Sweden and leave the dogs in the United States. We were running out of money and we were running out of time, so I didn't have a lot of options here. So we left the dogs with someone we trust and we decided to come to Sweden. When we got to Sweden, I immediately contacted a pet transportation company to go and pick up the dogs and have them delivered to Sweden. Now takes about like 3 weeks in an expedited way, but typically this could take 4 to 5 weeks if you're doing it normally. So if you want to do this, I really recommend getting a pet transportation company because they cover every single detail and they won't get stuck. So if you're thinking about getting yourself a pet transportation company, my suggestion to you is to plan at least a month and a week ahead of your departure date. Give yourself plenty of time because it does take them a minute to get everything done. Now, with that said, pet transportation companies are expensive, and I mean very expensive. Probably more money than most people are willing to pay out to move their pets. I'm gonna tell you how much this cost us. So in order to get the dogs over here without us, it is going to cost us nearly $11,000 for both Siberian Huskies with 2 new crates and the pet transportation company picking them up, taking them to the airport, everything. Now, I know half of you are like, holy cow, that is astronomically insane. Keep in mind, my Huskies are my children. I love them to death. They're also my work partners. We obviously do YouTube, so I was willing to pay whatever, but it is incredibly expensive and like wildly expensive. So keep that in mind. If you're moving one dog, it's probably like you can cut that number in half, or at least by like 40%, but it is very costly. Now that I've told you everything that you need to know, now that you know that me and my wife are in Sweden, the dogs are still in America, but they will be transported over, we can start talking about the logistics of how we're gonna get them over here. So what's gonna happen is the pet transportation company is going to pick up the dogs from the house that they're at in America. They're gonna be boarded for 1 night. Then the very next day, they get on a plane and they fly overseas to Sweden. What me and my wife are going to do is meet the dogs at the airport the second they land. And once they get through customs, which the pet transportation company makes sure that they have all their vet records, all the necessary health certificates, we go to special baggage pickup and we get both of the dogs and we take them home. That should be happening in about 2 weeks. So I wanted to keep everybody up to date. Now, if I could go back in time, I would choose to do this all over again with a pet transportation company. We lost thousands of dollars trying to do it the cheaper way. Doing it yourself, putting them on the plane as excess cargo when you're a passenger on the plane, costs significantly less, somewhere in the ballpark of like $2,000 to $3,000 versus $10,000. Another thing I want to say is that pet transportation companies have a foot in the door that you will never have. And what I mean by that is pet transportation companies have a license to put animals on a cargo plane that has no travelers or human passengers on it. It's specifically a plane that is meant to transport animals and other cargo goods. You yourself, as what would you call it? Whatever, cannot get your dog on a cargo plane. You have to have a special license to do this. So the only way to do that is to go through a pet transportation company. Otherwise, you have to transport the pet on a plane with people in the excess cargo or excess baggage area. There are differences, and I have heard from many people that going through a pet transportation company and having the dogs go onto a plane that is meant specifically for cargo and animals is a much safer option than putting them on a plane that also transports people. Hence why you're going to be paying so much money. Now, I don't think what the pet transportation companies do is worth $10,000, but they have that that foot in the door, they can ask for any amount of money that they want, and they certainly do. So that's where we stand. The dogs should be here in a couple weeks, but as soon as we can, we are going to go and pick up the dogs, and we are going to share our experience with that as well, because this isn't over yet. Obviously, we still have no dogs here in Sweden, and they still need to be transported. So there's still a lot to talk about, still a lot to go over, and we intend on sharing that with you guys. But I wanted to share with you our experience when it came to trying to do this ourselves, which ended up being a massive nightmare. So if you plan on transporting your dog overseas, if you're gonna do it by yourself, really do your homework. I mean, call the airline you plan on using and ask them every little question. And you may even want to go to the airport, because sometimes these airlines just outsource their customer service to India and they just don't know the answers. I'm not saying anything bad or negative about those people or the customer service of people in other countries, but sometimes they just don't know the answers to the questions you're asking. If you don't have every tiny little detail covered, you are going to be very upset, very stressed, and that stress will find its way to your dogs. So like I said, unfortunately, we had to go with a pet transportation company. I like the way they're handling everything so far. And by the way, we chose Starwood. I'm going to go ahead and link them down below. I think they're really good so far. They've had constant communication with me. I've been on the phone with them several times. They're in contact with our veterinarians, and the vets are working with them. So it's like someone's holding your hand along the process and really telling you what you need. I think the price is astronomically insane, but if you are in a position where you have to transport your animals, I really recommend doing that. It's an investment, but it's well worth it if you love your animals. And that's about it. That explains everything that's going on so far. Like I said, I'm gonna tell you guys exactly when the dogs get here. I'm gonna film the whole thing, and then we are gonna start our adventures in Sweden. Remember, do your homework if you plan on doing this yourself. And if you plan on getting a pet transportation company, I really recommend Starwood. Like I said, I'm gonna link them down below. Do your research on that as well. Make sure you pick a good company. They'll help you along instead of you just kind of blindly going through the dark. But I hope this helps some people. If you're thinking about doing this, just letting you know, there are 1,000,000,001 roadblocks on the road to getting your dog overseas. Taking it on yourself, I thought I would be able to handle it. Obviously not. So there's that. Anyways, I can't wait to meet up with the dogs at the airport. I can't wait to bring you guys along. It's going to be an awesome episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and following us through this hectic and nightmarish scenario that we're going through. It is wild, but I have a lot of confidence it's going to be fixed, and we're all going to be reunited very soon. Thank you for all the kind words you guys leave down in the comments. Look forward to new episodes coming out, because we're going to be bringing them your way. I'm going to be pumping out new episodes a lot, getting back into YouTube. I'm getting back into working. So I really appreciate everybody that's here and supporting the channel. So until next time, we'll see you with another episode of guess what? Yep, you guessed it, whatever we make. Peace.